So, welcome back to the Renewables Podcast. Before we get into the conversation today, we just want to touch on some products from our sponsors at Proteus. And I'm going to start, Sam, with this SPD that they've got. Now, with these, you can mount them straight onto the buzz bar. You don't need to have an overcurrent protected device for them, which is super handy when we're limited for space. And we're trying to combine a smaller renewables board maybe with some EPS circuits. There's a lot of uses for these. They're absolutely fantastic. We've been using them for a good few months now, not that long out on the market. So yeah, absolutely fantastic that Proteus are looking after us as installers. And you've got another range of products over there.
I have, yeah. I've got the coloured Henley blocks, or 100 amp link blocks as some people call them. And gone are the days. I'm a bad contractor for using the black ones for so long, the Bakelite ones, because you try and knock one of these top knockouts out and it basically shatters the full thing. And I'm guilty enough to say that I didn't know these existed. So we started using these now, and they're absolutely fantastic. Solid. You've got the little blanks in here as well. So if you don't use one of the terminals, you can blank it off or just slide it out when you do need to use it. They're fantastic, and obviously they're all coloured as well, so that you know exactly the phase colour and the colour of the cable or the phase that's going into it. So yeah,
even the functional earth, or the Cranis collection as it is called, in pink. And they work with the 3mm Allen keys, which is consistent through the range of the mains tails isolators as well. So they've got us at heart, I think, as installers. You're not messing around with different screws and heads. Another fantastic range of equipment to tie in with the bi-directional RCBOs, which is obviously the leading product Proteus have got at the minute. And they've had that for a long time, which is really helping us again as renewables installers. And that's one of the reasons that we're so happy to be working with Proteus on this show. But without any further ado, let's get back to the chat.
I think so. I think the people that know the challenges of installing this equipment, maintaining the equipment, I think the whole maintenance and repair works haven't even started in solar PV yet. So there's going to be some massive growth in what could we do to prevent these new installs facing the issues that you've been chatting about a lot, Mark, on your social media, like the PID and all this other stuff. What are the ways that we can try and fix these issues for future installs, learning from the past, and if us as installers don't feed that information back to MCS, to these working groups, to wherever, then ultimately, do they know about them? Because a lot of these people on the groups, if they're doing it voluntary, they're doing it because they want to improve the rules, the regulations, the standards in that industry, not just doing it because they want to get away from the kids. Well, I don't think so. They're doing it because they want to have a positive. They want to have a positive impact. So they need to know about this sort of stuff, and I think it's on us all to try and contribute in a small way or a large way to making that better.
Maybe I thought now, maybe we should have a technical working group on Christmas Day. I've got to go along.
Yeah, sorry, I've got to go.
Yeah, I mean that's the motivation, and it's not big corporate. I mean, yes, there's some of the manufacturers who are on those groups, and we need all voices. So installers, we need representation, and we're really careful about that, so that there's equal representation of installers, customer protection experts, manufacturers, and they all sit together. So things like BirdGuard, I mean, I don't know. What are the benefits of that? If a standard is anything, it is a distillation of best practice. So there'll be people listening to this podcast who found a way of doing something, protecting their installations, delivering quality. And while we're all installers want to make money, yes, and be competitive, things like that need to come out, form part of the standards. Manana maybe, but I would like in the next few years where you pick up the solar PV standard or whatever and you recognise it. It's something that you think, oh yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So, we operationalise the standard, make it more than just paperwork. Paperwork you might get out just before you have your certification body comes to you, because that's not the way you instill quality.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting to hear you talking like that, Ian, and I'm really encouraged by it actually, and getting that value out there and the message into the installer base that we are removing contractors 10 a month. That's a good message. We do want you involved and taking decisions around how the standards are developed. And we will support you when the things do go wrong, because, you might be in that position where you've made a genuine mistake and you don't just want booting out the industry because of it.
Yeah.
That's the fear you can have, isn't it? It's like, oh my God, MCS are going to throw me out of this when you're trying to work towards resolving the problem. So I think that's really encouraging, and fair play to you. I'm very excited to see and understand what all of this is going to be. But there is another conversation around that, and that's kind of the competition that you might be feeling within MCS from the likes of energy retailers and maybe some of these other companies who you're working alongside in the MCS of things, developing their own offerings that don't involve it. Are you feeling some pressure in that space around that, or are you kind of not too worried about it?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. It isn't on my mind. It is on my mind, and I think if MCS proves its value, and it needs to add more value. So for every £30 we take for your certificate, what are you getting as an installer? What does it give you as your mark of quality? I want it to feel like it's owned by industry. For instance, I've said that a few times.
Yes, I'm going to get on a t-shirt.
Yes. Yeah, maybe. So I mean, there are folks who don't want MCS, and I would say every industry, certainly where we are as an industry, and we're going from. I think we're moving into that mass adoption from early adoption. It's important that you have quality standards and that people hold you to account. What I really struggle with is competition for standards. So MCS today, you can get your MCS certification through 8 different certification bodies. You've got a choice. We create a market for certification through the likes of NICIC and others. What's difficult is, how many industries can you think of where there are competing standards? Same thing. That just is nonsense to me. So, and that's why I emphasise that we are charity owned. So we're not here to make profit out of the industry. We need to run MCS, a better MCS, which is coming next year. But yeah, so I am aware that some energy retailers, for example, who have said, I've said in the past, we don't want MCS involved in this. We'd rather mark our own homework, thank you. So okay, that's their opinion. Mine is that the industry consumers need protecting against when it does go wrong, and in a minority of cases it does go wrong, and that needs to be impartial and independent. Because what if there was a problem with an energy retailer's installation, and all the energy retailers are MCS certified and are still raising certificates against MCS?
So have you not seen a drop off of that then with these retailers that are maybe MCS approved, but then are they still going through MCS, or have they actually, as this actually worked, have they actually binned off the MCS?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say 100% that they are putting every single installation through MCS, but I can tell you that their numbers are growing under MCS. So their MCS business, if you like. Not everything is MCS-able. But they are growing, and therefore they're choosing to do that. Certainly on solar, where the smart export guarantee, each large energy company must have at least one smart energy guarantee, a SEG, export tariff, and that, as a consumer, if you've got an MCS certificate, gives you the right to access it. Energy companies can have multiple export tariffs that are not MCS. So the value of MCS in the future, and what we proved with solar post-feed-in tariff, is that consumers want it. They pull it. They go, why wouldn't I want an MCS registered installation? And they understand the value that gives them. They don't understand that enough today. We'll be doing a lot of work on that next year, so that you as an MCS contractor get that business. You should get that business because it's MCS. I'm MCS. Okay, great.
That's an important point. I think we feel as installers that some of these energy retailers are riding shotgun over our kind of industry because they've got unfair advantages around being able to swap energy meters of their own accord, be able to fit isolation points, pull the service views, enter into bespoke tariff deals that we can't give a customer, and now they're trying to circumvent the standards and oversight that you just mentioned there by not being within MCS. And I think any consumer should think very carefully about that, because are the energy retailers focused on that consumer quality, or are they focused in on getting people contracted to their services for several years? And if you then choose to move to a different energy provider, do all those arrangements still stand? And like, it gets really complicated. And I think a lot of that comes to education of consumers and maybe installers working with MCS to emphasise that point around quality and oversight of what these installs are looking like.
Yeah, I think a really great point there that you made, Ian, was what happens when that 1% do go wrong and you've not got an MCS approved project, you haven't got a third party that you can necessarily go back to, because that energy provider has decided that they're going to provide all the benefits of, on the face of it, that MCS offer, like the access to the SEG and everything like that. Whereas they don't talk about, well, if something goes wrong, you can always chat to MCS about it, and they can be the third party that deal with it on your behalf. If that bit is locked out of the process because the energy providers have said, you don't need that. We'll deal with all of the front-loaded benefits like the access to the SEG, like I mentioned. Customers maybe don't even know that if there's a problem, there isn't a third party. There probably is, like, long-term, but not one that's direct about solar PV. Yeah. And so I think that's quite an important point to get out there, that you don't have that same kind of person on your side if they are being unreasonable with something.
Yeah. Well, I think it would also be fair to say that consumers have been confused what MCS is. I mean, I've got an MCS installation at my home. I've got a heat pump that's MCS certified. Mrs. Rippin doesn't know we've got an MCS certificate. It's one of those things in the box. You put it when you buy something new, your guarantee goes in, but you don't need it till you need it. So we've got to get better at raising consumer understanding. And please don't get me wrong, some of the energy operators, providers are doing fabulous installations. They really are. But we also need a market of what I would refer to as artisan installers who will come and do a bespoke installation that's right for your home, give you a great service, probably quite local in a geographical area. It's not cookie cutting, I think is the first. So you get a great installation, and there's a market for all of that. There should be room for everybody. And I think what's interesting about what we're seeing now with the likes of Octopus, I think they're accessing quite a different market in terms of their heat pump offer to other installers. I can't say that for sure, but I think as we analyse the data into next year, all available on the data dashboard, we'll see, who are the consumers, who's buying them, what government incentive is being applied. We've got the Clean Heat Market mechanism on the way in April, which will drive a behaviour. Because government want that. They want us to have more. They want to decarbonise our homes. So we're going to see behaviours coming out of government incentives. That is actually quite a different incentive. That's about manufacturers paying fines if they don't sell a proportion of heat pumps compared to their fossil fuel boilers. And we're going to have a slow start with that, a steady start next year. It's coming in, so that'll change things. Future home standard, installation of renewables from the very beginning of your home, so it's future-proof. That'll also change behaviour. So, MCS is operating in a space that's changing, and the installers are operating in that space. And I want it to feel like a partnership, and I couldn't be more accessible. I do realise that people think this MCS, what is it? This sort of thing helps me talking about it. Genuinely, we have to listen to installers. We do. The scheme is going to improve. It has to improve to justify its existence, post-government incentive.
I think there's a fairness side that we're looking for as installers with the energy retailers. And the way your certification scheme is set up actually does allow for that, where you're paying per job you're notifying, whereas in the world of electrical installations, it doesn't necessarily map out like that, where a ginormous contractor can be paying exactly the same as you or I, Sam, for our accreditation. There's an unfairness there, and I think as long as the standards have been applied, we've seen some of the installs on social media that energy retailers have done where they've not been very good, and it's kind of how that is then processed by MCS. So obviously, there's a huge volume of these installs. They're a lot more visible. When it goes wrong, it's maybe going to be more public than us making a mistake. We need to acknowledge that as installers. And as long as we get that fairness and it feels like it's fair, then you'll have the support of the installer base in what you're trying to do without any question.
And that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm contracting with installers, the sector, to do. So I mean, the counterclaim I hear is, well, those big energy retailers, the bigger installers, they're just really great at handling complaints. And MCS, you'll never hear about them. So you can't say they're doing a great job, Ian. I can't say anybody's doing a great job, just what we hear. So part of what we've been piloting this year, every recipient of a boiler upgrade scheme grant gets called by MCS. Every consumer. We're around just under 40,000 contacts we've done this year through my team saying, how was it for you? That will be rolled out across every single installation. I'm not going to call everybody because I'd need a team of thousands. But we are going to give every consumer an opportunity to say, well, it wasn't that great. Whether it's the drag mud in to my house and wreck the carpet, or my heating still isn't working, my heat pump isn't working, whatever it is, we will hear about it so that we can assess whether a larger installer is just very good at keeping their customers quiet, or they're actually doing a great job.
So is this the 7,500 grant, or is this a different grant then?
Yeah, 7,500 is the boiler upgrade scheme.
Right. Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's what we've been using as our pilot to understand how contact rates are phenomenal. And I think that's part of the demographic who buys heat pumps. They tend to be in the day. My team start early, finish late. So we're talking to consumers. And the great news is, vast majority are really happy with their heat pump installation. These are not horrible calls to make.
Yeah.
But then we do find the odd installer that's made a mistake. First thing we do is talk to that installer. Did you know? No problem there. And if they do know what they're doing about it, then we'll follow up. And then we're tracking that over time. So what tends to happen is you get like a bow wave of complaints. We might hear it on the help desk. Our help desk is a very busy help desk. We might hear it through our outbound contact. And then we might hear it from the certification body that's got a certification issue. So data for certification is going to be critical. So we build a picture of an installer, recognising that not everybody, no one's perfect. But if there's a trend emerging, then we suspect quickly.
I think
move quickly.
It's ludicrous to expect that MCS could have oversight of every single job that's taking place out in industry. That's not something we could reasonably expect. But, yeah, do you think I don't know if this already happens, but is there a place for installers when they're going out to do maintenance, for example, and they see something that's not right, for them to make that complaint into MCS rather than the customer? Because it's okay, you're asking consumers, but straight away I'm thinking they don't have the technical knowledge to know if their system is actually installed correctly. They might know it's working right, know that they were polite, they didn't put mud on the carpet, but are they best placed to judge that? Is there a mechanism, or even using AI? We had this conversation with Jordan on this podcast, that every install that's done, be that heat pump, solar, whatever else, that photographs are sent in. And you maybe don't have them manually reviewed by humans, but you've got them on record and AI can look at them. I know the manufacturers do this, Give Energy and Sig Energy as examples.
Yeah.
They have photographs sent in of installs. They are looked at. And if there is something that's not right, they're worried about the warranty side of things and looking after those. Is there a place for that in MCS? Does it already happen?
It does already happen, not as effective. It's not as effective as it needs to be. So yes, whistleblowing, which can be anonymous. Really interesting. The people who follow me on LinkedIn and on social media, I'll get, look at this MCS installation. They'll send in the photographs, and we go back and go, well, give us some details. Where is it? And I'm sorry to say, 9 times out of 10 don't get a response back.
Right.
People don't like to complain about. They think they're betraying somehow the other installer, but they're quite happy putting it out on social media. So, what with MCS taking more control over its scheme, that's what we'll be doing next year. We want to hear about problems in the field, and if that's you're going out and you're maintaining someone else's installation, it's an issue, or you pick up a complaint, I want you to be able to pass that to MCS.
What's the best way? What would be the best way to do that, or is that going to come in the new?
It'll be in any way that's suitable for you as the installer. So
Right.
ring the help desk, send us an email. Prefer it not to be on social media.
Yeah.
I know why people do that. I also know people get frustrated with MCS. So, I'm telling MCS what's going to happen. That is a fair criticism because of the way MCS is engineered at the moment. Its component parts, certification body, consumer code, and then MCS distant. Our brand is being taken to market by those organisations. We are bringing that back so that MCS as a scheme owner is closer to the industry. So I want an installer to have a conversation, say, look, I think there's a problem here. Here's my photos. Can you go out and have a look at it?
Yeah.
I'll send one of the MCS team to have a look.
I think obviously the world of social media is very easy in a few clicks, and thousands of people can see whatever you want them to see. But I think probably one of the main reasons that happens is that maybe at the minute they feel like that process of reporting an issue like that isn't as simple as it should be. So they feel like that's maybe one way to get attention because it is public. But I feel like if that process is changed and is made simpler and people do get a response, it's not going to take long before people actually go, well, there's no need for me to shout about it on social media. I'll just send it to this email address. I get a phone call back or, an email back to say, can you give us these details? We're going to investigate this further. I think that maybe cuts quite a lot of that out. Probably not all of it, but probably cuts some of that out.
Totally. I understand. If you don't think, it's like filling in a survey, isn't it? Why am I doing this? Is anything going to ever happen with the time I'm invested in doing it? So you've got to feel like MCS is taking that seriously, even if it's a misunderstanding, even if it's that conversation we have with the original installer. There might be good reason why certain things have been done in the way they have, but if you're making a promise to a customer under the new MCS, there's something called the customer commitment. Common sense, really simple. It replaces your consumer code. More and more paperwork as it is today. It's customer commitment. So I'm going to treat you respectfully. You're going to get what I promised. You're going to pay for it. You're going to behave as a customer to me. You're going to treat me with respect, which includes paying me. So it's part of that sort of contracting, loosely speaking. So we want to see that honoured too. So you need how you behave with your customer, delivering a great installation every time for every customer. That's really what it's about. And the occasional cock-up that needs to be resolved.
That's really exciting.
Doing it to the installer, the first thing we will do, I promise you, is we've got a problem. We've heard about it. Do you know about it? Or I want installers almost to go, oh, thanks for telling me. Because sometimes people don't like complaining.
Directly to the.
People do like to. I know they're going, but there are.
Yeah.
They're not very good at complaining. I get what I paid for.
It's complaining in the right way though to get a result, and I think that's if that process can be simplified, I think that would help massively.
And get MCS out of the way. If we're making an introduction that says, look, Mrs. Rippin's not happy with whatever. Okay, did you know that? No, right. She is, by the way. We have agreed. House is warm and lovely.
Yeah.
But so that's what it is. It's just fair, being fair and transparent. That's what I'm trying to.
I think that's what installers want to see, and the NIC and NAPE historically have the same complaints around Part P and electrical work, that there's no real enforcement unless complaints come from customers. And there's some truths and myths in and around that as well. And the fact you're willing to discuss it even today, and full credit to you, because some of those other organisations haven't and won't entertain that discussion. So I think there's a huge bit of credit for you there coming onto the podcast with us speaking about it. And we've not really delved into the manufacturer's side of things. We've kept this quite installer heavy, but you do look at kind of the standards around that equipment and their use in the UK. There was a recent example with in-roof solar. Where there was a publication from MCS that I saw maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Now we're trying to help clarify that mirage of information between manufacturers, installers and consumers. So you do an important job there as well. And, full credit to you. While you get the complaints, I think you should also get the pats on the back when you do step up and do those things.
I mean, human beings, we tend to focus a bit on the sort of the negative feedback, and I'm not some emotional wreck, don't worry, but I do, I do want this to be the best it can be. MCS does need to improve. It does need to be ready for the next 16 years. So the best people to talk to are really great installers who, as I say, they keep us honest. They tell us exactly what they think about it.
So in terms of, because obviously one of the benefits of some of these bodies at the minute where we have to, like Highs Rec and all the rest of it, is dispute management around that. And so that's, from what you've said, is going to come potentially in-house if we want it to. So working on the other side of that then, if there's an installation where the customer is refusing to pay because they see a problem that isn't actually a problem, there's teeth on the other side where we can, obviously you can't go in there with bailiffs, but you can reassure
Ian's going to turn up with
his balaclava and his baseball bat. No, but because like you mentioned right at the start of this podcast, it does feel sometimes like these people are there we're paying effectively to be attacked sometimes by these other bodies, because it's very heavily weighted towards customer complaints and make sure the customer's always happy. But sometimes, like we've said, the customer has actually got their facts wrong, or it's been done correctly, but the customer has come up with this idea around it not being done correctly. And so you're saying that this new MCS scheme is basically MCS being on our side when that could potentially be happening.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. And it's number of complaints is small, but small minority of those are where the customer is not behaving appropriately. And I think what under the new MCS we will take the installer side if it's appropriate. If actually what has been delivered to promise, and the customer's trying to game it in some way, and I think I'll say then where we say, well, this is, we've managed to complain through to a conclusion. This is our position. Now, if the consumer's not happy with that, we can all go to court. And the consumer can still do that. But in the new MCS, alternative dispute resolution, which is ADR, we handle complaints. We'll coordinate that with the customer and the installer, and hopefully most of this will get solved through that process. But if we can't meet in the middle, we can't define what a good outcome is that's acceptable to both the installer and the customer, and that takes some manoeuvring sometimes, then we will offer alternative dispute resolution, which will be free. And it's not legally binding, but if you go to court as a consumer or installer and say, yeah, I've gone through ADR, alternative dispute resolution, the outcome was this, the judge will not look very kindly, because the whole point of alternative dispute resolution is that you avoid clogging up the courts.
Yeah.
So we want to keep it out of the court. But I don't want to focus too much on that, because most things get solved. Not the long, protracted complaints that have got, where it becomes a battle of wills. We've handled several of those this year. Intervene, and we paid for things to be put right as installers, for whatever reason. But we want to catch these things early and get to site early. Set a reasonable expectation for the installer and their customer. I think that'll just. Hopefully we won't need our ADR facility. It's almost like a cost of failure of not getting involved soon enough and being an arbiter, being in the middle ground. I've got some very qualified people who work in MCS who are also sensitive to installers and the difficult job you have to do.
Yeah, because we're only ever talking about that 1%, if that, of the total installs that people are kicking off in terms of in such a heavy way that it can't be resolved by a visit or something tweaking, even if you as an installer don't necessarily agree that it was ever wrong. A lot of companies, I know we've done it before, where we go, okay, we'll move that cable to that side of the drain pipe, or it's little things like that. Where
you have to do it.
No,
do it because
you do it to keep that relationship, to get those reviews. And I think that discussion just there is for maybe one complaint that we maybe all have in our full careers, that has to go further than
that.
It happens, doesn't it? It happens for sure. It's been a really interesting conversation. I've got one more question before I run out of them. And it's more around the political oversight around this. I don't want to get too political on these things, but obviously we've had the recent budget, and I shared some views of the difficulties small businesses have got coming because of that. We asked Jason Howlett from Give Energy this as well, but it's kind of your oversight into the political side of things. Do we have reason to be optimistic as heat pump, PV, battery storage installers that this mass adoption that we're all hoping to see in the next decade or so is going to come to light? Are we on that right trajectory, politically speaking?
I think I have to be apolitical because we work with government officials, as you might imagine, where MCS is written into legislation is appropriate. We have regular meetings with the Department of Energy, Security and Net Zero. So I'm more positive than I've felt for a long time. And I say that because the government is about to publish the solar roadmap. So that's, now I'm going to get all the numbers wrong. It's, should I, my head. I'm only part of this committee, but it's about 4 times increase in solar PV installation in the UK by 2035. That's both rooftop and ground mounted. What are the it's 70 gigawatts, I've remembered it now. So we're currently at 17 gigawatts of solar PV. In 2023, there was 1 gigawatt of solar PV through MCS on domestic roofs. So, it is possible. So what are the 70 actions for 70 gigawatts? That's what is before this government, and it's an industry body chaired by the Minister and also Solar Energy UK. So Chris Hewitt, if you're not part of a trade body, I'd encourage you to think about being a member of Solar Energy UK. They're very good at lobbying and facilitating these things. So solar looks good. Solar roadmap will help. What do we need? Not least future M standard to have solar as not just token solar, but real solar on new build. I think that will have a halo effect on retrofit. Anyway, I'm getting off the topic. So solar, quite exciting. Now heat pumps. Who knows what the clean heat market mechanism will do in terms of manufacturers trying to promote their heat pump offering. I'd hope it will elevate that. There's more money for the boiler upgrade scheme. Not the value is still £7,500. When you think about it, £7,500. That's a chunky bit of cash, and it's not means tested. Everybody can have it. Wherever you are in the UK, you can have your £7,500. I have a boiler upgrade scheme, part funded installation at my home. So I think boiler upgrade scheme, clean heat market mechanism, heat pumps is going to continue to grow. I would not be surprised if we see 80,000, 100,000 heat pumps under MCS next year. So
I suppose a really key part of that puzzle, and that's why I'm quite reassured speaking to you today, is that having these targets around, we see it through building homes, and there's always, everyone moans about the standard of new builds and everything. It's how we maintain the standards of those. It's okay doing, a gigawatt a year or, 70, whatever gigawatt a year. It has to be done correctly. Otherwise, we've just got 70 gigawatt of rubbish installs, that we have to maintain and fix and, and ultimately replace potentially. So getting these things done is one thing, but getting them done right is another thing. And so I think if we can nail the MCS standard in terms of making sure that this stuff is sorted and that, potentially that standard is the standard that everyone goes to, because I take your points around it's difficult when there's competing standards out there potentially with other schemes coming online. We need to standardise that in my eyes and go, look, these are the rules you have to follow. And as long as there's teeth there to get rid of people that aren't following or to make them change their ways, because sometimes it could be an education piece, not necessarily people doing it for the wrong reasons, then I feel like we can all push towards this goal of getting solar PV on every roof or heat pumps in every house or whatever the goal is, because everyone is following pretty much the same set of rules, rather than it just being a case of, oh, well, they'll never do anything about us doing this bad install. We'll just make our money and we'll disappear. We'll get a bit of that, but as long as the majority are working to those standards, and I think the majority want to, then I think we're onto a good thing with it.
More accessible.
Yeah.
The MCS standards have been tested in the field now for 16 years, so they're creating something new, really. So I hope that the Future Home Standard mandates that the installation should be delivered to the MCS, the industry standard. It's a different regime in terms of compliance on the new build. It is different, but really interesting that you don't need to be MCS to fit renewables in new build, and yet some of the larger installers choose to be MCS because they want to be able to give the house builder, and in turn the house builder to the home buyer, they want to be able to give them an MCS certificate because it's their mark of quality, compliant with the industry standard.
Potentially an insurance issue as well going forward, home insurance and things like that.
Absolutely, it is for some already. It can be a condition in your mortgage. Certainly, if you're getting your warranty on your home, your new build warranty. And the main one is, I always get the banks, and it's not HSBC, is it?
Barclays also.
No, the actual warranty on your new build.
Oh, right. Sure.
When you buy you get your 10-year guarantee.
Right.
MCS is written into that already. That's like an insurance product as well as a compliance document. So, one standard. That's absolutely got to be the way the industry grows. Otherwise, we're going to get more confusion. Installers wondering which standard they need to comply with. Just comply with MCS.
Yeah.
I'd support that message as a small installer myself, and it's really interesting to hear you talk about all those things, Ian. I've had my eyes open to lots of topics we've run through on this podcast, and I hope other installers listening along have had the same. So you've certainly got my support, if that means anything in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and mine. I, to be honest, I was ready to have a few of these questions, poo-pooed from you, because the hot topics, and like we spoke of before this, these are the topics that need to be discussed, and I feel like you've been extremely open and honest, and I think that is exactly what the industry needs, but also from the gatekeepers of this industry, that open and honest approach, which I feel like, I'm sure Mark would agree, you've brought today, is exactly what the trajectory that MCS and just the standards in general need to be on for us all to be working better to better standards and working off the same hymn sheet. So a massive thank you from me for being so open and honest, and literally not what Ian said to us was basically nothing is off limits before this, which surprised me. So hopefully we've delivered those questions that everybody wants to know. And I think I'll have to listen back, but I think there's been a lot there that we've gone through, we've myth busted, and hopefully we've set the record straight in some of these areas, that people can actually now get on board with helping MCS to develop and actually back it, because we know that there isn't, someone in the Bahamas with all those £30, which we maybe thought beforehand. But that's it. And so a massive thank you from me for being so open and honest. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I thought the one thing I just had to add, spoken about January for this new standard. Is there a fixed date on when this is actually going to be officially in place? Or is
I got away with that.
Yeah.
I thought,
is it still floating around a little bit?
Oh, honestly, it has been the process of getting the new scheme design, which was conceived of nearly 2 years ago. Getting that through a process of the scheme itself has to be assessed, and it's assessed by the UK accreditation service, UCAS. So that process has taken longer. It's been really useful, by the way. I'm not critical of that. It just took far too longer than we thought. So when we say that we are publishing the new scheme, that's all we're doing in January. We'll publish all the new scheme, and I'm sure it'll create noise and people want to talk about it. And, if you want me to come back and explain it, I'm really
Exactly.
very happy to do so. There will then be a transition. And I'm thinking 2025 is the year of transition, not a fire sale. There's no rush, because each certification body, the 8, will all have to evidence that they're ready to offer the new scheme. And that process is going to take time. So I don't think installers will not be able to access the new MCS in January. They'll be able to see what's in it and hopefully be encouraged by it. And then over the course of the year, they'll be able to make the move over to it. We're not really sure what those timescales are like. I've made a mistake in the past of saying, it's going to be the summer. I'm confident we'll be publishing in January, because UCAS have told us that by the end of this year, it'll have gone through all their processes. So we can publish in January. What happens next is this transition phase.
Yeah.
So there's no rush, but I know some installers have said to me already, can't wait to go. I don't want to renew my consumer code. I don't want to buy my insurance back guarantee. You have to carry on having those things until you're on the new scheme. So carry on as you are, and then over time your certification body will be talking to you about, okay, new scheme's ready for you now.
I think that's fair. As long as we're on the roadmap towards it, these things can't be brought and changed so drastically really quickly. So
I'd love it if it was, I woke up that morning thinking, yes, a new MCS.
Yeah.
But it
Takes a bit of
isn't
time.
quite like that, sadly.
Yeah.
But we will communicate. We've communicated recently about this. There'll be lots more we're saying, lots more your chosen certification body will be saying too about 2025 being a transition year.
Yeah, well, we'd love to have you back on when that transition is well underway, and just to again almost continue this conversation on when it's in people's hands, people are going through it. And if anyone's got any questions when that does happen, then let us know. And then if we can convince Ian to come back on after this, which hopefully we'll do, then we can put them towards him and MCS as a bigger being to try and clarify anything like that. But massive thank you for coming on. Did you have anything else, Matt, before I close it out?
Just a huge thank you. You can take us out with it.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you very much for watching another episode of the Renewables Podcast. If you've got any questions about this episode, any feedback, you want to share it, all of that really helps us to grow the Renewables Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Please subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down, all that usual stuff. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next episode.